In this video, we will take a deep dive into the Lord of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Ring. We will explore the storyline, break down the plot, and take a closer look at the cast and the character. We will also discuss the film production detail and examine its box office performance. Finally, we will share reviews and give us our personal reaction. So let's get started. It's important to slow down and appreciate why this film continues to deserve discussion even decade after its release. This is not just another fantasy movie, it's a defining moment in cinematic history, especially with the fantasy and the adventure genre. Let's start with the genre. Fantasy film existed long before this one, but very few managed to create a world that felt as real, detailed, and emotionally grounded. What makes this film worth discussing is how it treats fantasy not as escapism alone but as something deeply human. The story is filled with magical creatures, ancient lords, and epic landscape, yet at its core, it is about fear, friendship, responsibility, and sacrifice. That balance between the extraordinary and the relatable is what elevates it above typical genre film. Now turning to the director Peter Jackson, his vision is one of the main reasons this film stand out. Jackson did not approach this project as a simple adaptation. He treated it as a massive interconnected world that needed to feel authentic in every detail. His direction shows patience and confidence. He allows scenes to breathe, giving the audience time to absorb the beauty of Middle of Earth while also building emotional connection with the character. This slower, more deliberate pacing is something modern blockbuster often overlook, and it's one of the reasons the film feels timeless. Jackson also understood the importance of tone. The film shifts smoothly between moments of quiet reflection and intense danger. One moment you are enjoying the peaceful life of hobbits, and the next you are facing the terrifying presence of dark forces. This careful control of tone keep the audience engaged without overwhelming them. It's a style that invites viewer into the story rather than pushing them through it. That comes the production style, which is arguably one of the most impressive aspects of the live. Instead of relying heavily on digital effects alone, the production team used a combination of practical effects, real location detail, costumes, and miniature. The landscape of New Zealand were not just backdrop; they became part of the storyline. Every mountain, forest, and the village feel alive and believable. The attention to detail is remarkable, from the design of the armor to the architecture of different culture within the film. Everything reflected deep respect for the source material by J.R.R Tolkien. This commitment to authenticity is what makes the world immersive. You do not feel like you are watching actor on a set. You feel like you are witnessing a real journey in a fully realized world. Another reason this film is worth discussing is its influence. It set a new standard for large scale filmmaking after its release. Many films try to replicate its epic scope and the emotional depth after its release. Many films try to replicate its epic scope and emotional depth, but few succeed in capturing the same balance. It's very important and to clear up and the discussion of the Fellowship of the Ring. Through its genre defining approach, the visionary direction of Peter Jackson, and its groundbreaking production style, it remains a film that invites in analysis, appreciation, and repeated viewing. The production budget of the film can be best understood as part of a larger, carefully structured financial strategy rather than an isolated figure. The commonly cited budget for the film is around $93 million, but this number only tells part of the story. The film was produced alongside its two sequels as a single continuous project with a combined budget of approximately $281 million. This approach was unusual at the time and introduced both financial risk and efficiency by committing to all three films at once. The production avoided the repeated costs that usually come with sequel, just as rebuilding set or renegotiating contract. A significant portion of the budget was allocated toward world building. Director Peter Jackson prioritized creating a believable and immersive environment rather than relying solely on digital shortcuts. This meant investing heavily in physical sets, detailed costume, and handcrafted props. Entire environments were constructed to reflect different cultures and regions within the story, inspired by the writing of J.R.R Tolkien. This level of detail required more time and money, but it contributed directly to the film realism and long term value. Location shooting was another major cost factor. Filming took place across New Zealand, requiring transportation of equipment, cast, and crew to remote areas. Why this increased logistical expenses? It reduced the need for artificial environment and gave the film a natural visual authenticity that would have been difficult to replicate in a studio setting. The landscape became an essential part of the storytelling, justifying the investment. Visual effects also consumed a notable share of the budget, through the film's strategy in this area was balanced. Instead of relying entirely on computer generated imagery, the production combined digital techniques with practical effects such as miniature and forced perspective. This hybrid approach allowed the filmmaker to control cost while still achieving a large scale visual impact. It also helped the film age better compared to projects that depended heavily on early digital effects. Interestingly, cast salaries were relatively controlled compared to other blockbuster films. Many of the actors were not yet major global stars at the time, which allowed the production to allocate more resources to technical departments like cinematography, editing, and special effects. This decision reflects a focus on the overall quality of the films rather than star power as the main selling point. When compared to the similar films from the same period, the budget appeared efficient. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone had a higher reported budget, yet the Fellowship of the Ring is often considered more grounded in its visual presentation. Later fantasy films such as The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey were produced with significantly larger budget, yet they did not necessarily achieve the same balance between scale and authenticity. This highlights how effective planning and resource allocation can sometimes outweigh sheer financial investment. Overall, the production budget reflects a long-term vision rather than the short-term spending. By distributing cost across multiple films, emphasizing practical craftsmanship and carefully prioritizing resources, the filmmaker created a model of efficiency that influenced future large-scale production. The genre of the Ring of the Lord, the Fellowship of the Ring, is primarily rooted in epic fantasy, yet it extends beyond the traditional expectation of that category. While fantasy often emphasizes spectacle and imagination, this film adopts a more grounded and immersive approach, blending elements of adventure, drama, humor, subtitle, historical realism. The result is a genre experience that feels expensive but also controlled, inviting the audience to engage with its world on both an emotional and sensory level. One of the most defining aspects of the film is its atmosphere. Under the direction of the Peter Jackson, the environment is crafted with an almost tangible presence. The setting feels alive in rather than constructed, and there is a strong sense of depth in every frame. This atmosphere is not dependent solely on visual effect. It emerges from a combination of natural landscape, practical design, and careful cinematography. The film often uses wide sweeping shots to establish scale, followed by more intimate framing that draw attention to subtitle detail. This contrast creates a rhythm that keeps the viewers visually engaging without overwhelming them. The mood of the film is notably layered. It shifts between warmth and unease, calmness and tension, but always maintain a sense of underlying seriousness. There is a quiet emotional weight present throughout, even in higher moments. This balance prevents the film from becoming either too dark or overly whimsical. Instead, it occupies a middle ground where moment of beauty coexist with a persistent sense of uncertainty. This mood is further enhanced by a carefully orchestrated musical score which reinforces emotional cues without dominating the scene. In terms of pacing, the film adopts a deliberate and measured approach. It does not rush to deliver action or dramatic intensity. Instead, it allows scene to unfold gradually, giving the audience time to absorb the environment and tone. This slower pacing is a stylistic choice that aligns with the film's emphasis on immersion. It encourages viewer to settle into the world rather than simply absorb it. While some modern audience may find this approach less immediate, it ultimately contributes to the film's lasting impact by creating a sense of journey rather than a sequence of events. The tone is consistent yet flexible. It leans toward seriousness and sincerity, avoiding irony or self awareness that might break immersion. This sincerity is crucial in maintaining the credibility of the fantasy element. At the same time, the film incorporates moments of lightness and subtitle humor which serve to humanize the overall experience. This tonal shift variation are handled with restraint, ensuring that they complement rather than disrupt the overarching mood. Stylistically, the film reflects a commitment to realism within a fantastical framework. Practical effect, detailed costume, and physical sets are used extensively, giving the visuals a tactile quality. Digital effects are present but integrated in a way that support rather than dominate the aesthetic. This approach aligns with a broader vision inspired by J.R.R Tolkien work, where the world is meant to feel an ancient texture and believable. Color grading and lighting also play a significant role in shaping the mood. Warmer tones are often used to evoke comfort, familiarity, while cooler, desaturated palettes introduce a sense of tension or distance. These visual choices are subtle but effective, guiding the viewer's emotional response without overt signaling. Overall, the genre and the mood of the film are defined by careful balance of scale and intimacy, realism and imagination, restraint and intensity. It is this balance that allows the film to stand out with this genre defining and offering an experience that is both visually grand and emotionally grounded. Before watching the film, audience often arrive with a wide range of expectations shaped by their background, familiarity with fantasy, and the awareness of the source material. These expectations are not uniform. They vary significantly depending on viewers' demographic, anticipating themes, and the level of engagement with the genre itself. From a viewer's demographic perspective, the film attracts a broad audience that span multiple age groups and viewer performances. Younger viewers, especially teenagers and young adults, may approach the film expecting adventure, action, and visually impressive sequence. For them, the appeal often lies in the scale of the world and the excitement associated with epic storytelling. Older audience, on the other hand, may enter with a more measured expectation, looking for depth, coherence, and emotional resonance rather than just spectacle. Additionally, viewers who are already familiar with the literary work of J.R.R. Tolkien tend to carry more specific expectations. They often anticipate a faithful adaptation with careful attention to detail, tone, and thematic integrity. This group is typically more sensitive to how the film interprets the original material, making their expectations both higher and more precise. Another important factor shaping expectation is the film's association with director Peter Jackson. Audience familiar with his work may expect a strong visual style combined with a serious and immersive tone. There is often an assumption that the film will be crafted with a clear artistic vision rather than functioning purely as a commercial entertainment. These expectations can influence how viewers prepare themselves mentally for the experience, anticipated a film that require attention and patience rather than casual viewing. When considering anticipated theme, many viewers expect a classic struggle between good and evil, which is a common element in fantasy storytelling. However, expectations often go to beyond this basic framework. Audience may also anticipate themes of friendship, loyalty, courage, and moral responsibility. These expectations are shaped not only by the repetition of the source material but also by the broader conventions of the genre. Viewers often expect the film to explore deeper emotional and philosophical ideas beneath its surface level spectacle. At the same time, there is an expectation that these themes will be presented in a way that is accessible, allowing both casual viewer and more analytical audience to engage with the film. The film's reputation as a large-scale production also contribute to a expectation regarding its visuals and technical quality. Audience typically anticipate high production values, including detailed environment, convincing effect. There is often an assumption that will deliver a polished and immersive experience. This expectation is particularly strong among viewers who are drawn to the films for their technical achievement as much as their storytelling. Expectations are often even more defined. Fantasy enthusiasts usually look for consistency in world building, a sense of internal logic, and a commitment to genre tradition. They expect the films to create a fully realized universe that feel expansive and interconnected. At the same time, they may also hope for innovation, something that distinguishes the film from other entries in the genre. This creates a dual expectation. The film should feel familiar enough to satisfy genre convention while also offering something new and memorable. Conversely, viewers who are less familiar with fantasy may approach the film with a degree of uncertainty. Their expectation might be shaped by concern about complexity, length, or accessibility. They may wonder whether the film will be easy to follow or whether it requires prior knowledge to fully appreciate. For these viewers, the expectation is fully crafted is often centered on clarity and engagement. They hope the film will guide them into its world without overwhelming them. There is also a general expectation regarding pacing and tone. Given the film's length and scope, audience often anticipate a slower, more deliberate progression rather than fast-paced, action-driven experience. This expectation can influence how viewers interpret the film's rhythm, making them more receptive to gradual development and atmospheric storytelling. Overall, audience expectations before watching the films are shaped by a combination of demographic factors, familiarity with the resource material, and a prior experience with the fantasy genre. Whether viewers are seeking spectral emotional depth or technical excellence, the film carries a set of expectations that reflect its reputation as a major cinematic achievement and a defining work within its genre. Before watching the film, audience often arrive with a wide range of expectations shaped by their background, familiarity with fantasy and the awareness of the source material. These expectations are not uniform, they vary significantly depending on viewers' demographic, anticipated theme, and the level of engagement with the genre itself. From a viewer's demographic perspective, the film attracts a broad audience that span multiple age group and viewing preferences. Younger viewers, especially teenagers and young adults, may approach the film expecting adventure, action, and visually impressive sequence. For them, the appeal often lies in the scale of the world and the excitement associated with epic storytelling. Older audience on the other hand may enter with a more mature expectations, looking for depth, coherence, and emotional resonance rather than just spectacle. Additionally, viewers who are already familiar with the literal work of J.R.R Tolkien tend to carry more specific expectations. They often anticipate a faithful adaptation with careful attention to detail, tone, and thematic intricacy. This group is typically more sensitive to how the film interprets the original material, making their expectation both higher and more precise. Another important factor shaping expectation is the film association with director Peter Jackson. Audience familiar with his work may expect a strong visual style combined with a serious and immersive tone. There is often an assumption that the film will be crafted with a clear artistic vision rather than functioning purely as commercial entertainment. This expectation can influence how viewers prepare themselves mentally for the experience. Anticipated a film that require attention and patience rather than casual viewing. When considering anticipated theme, many viewers expect a classic struggle between good and evil, which is a common element in fantasy storytelling. However, expectations often go beyond this basic framework. Audience may also anticipate themes of friendship, loyalty, courage, and moral responsibility. These expectations are shaped not only by the reputation of the source material but also by the broader convention of the genre. Viewers often expect the film to explore deeper emotional and philosophical ideas beneath their surface level spectacle. At the same time, there is an expectation that these themes will be presenting in a way that is accessible, allowing both casual viewer and more analytical audience to engage with the film. The film's reputation as a large-scale production also contribute to expectations regarding its visual and technical quality. Audience typically anticipate high production value, including detailed environment, convincing effect, and a cohesive visual style. Giving the film status as a major cinematic project, there is often an assumption that it will deliver a polished and immersive experience. This expectation is particularly strong among viewers who are drawn to films for their technical achievement as much as their storytelling. For genre fan, expectations are often even more defined. Fantasy enthusiasts usually look for consistency in world building, a sense of internal logic, and a commitment to the genre tradition. They expect the film to create a fully realized universe that feel expansive and interconnected. At the same time, they may also hope for innovation, something that distinguishes the film from other entries in the genre. This creates a dual expectation. The film should feel familiar enough to satisfy genre convention while also offering something new and memorable. Conversely, viewers who are less familiar with fantasy may approach the film with a degree of uncertainty. Their expectation may be shaped by concern about complexity, length, or accessibility. They may wonder why the film will be easy to follow or whether it requires prior knowledge to fully appreciate. For these, viewer expectation is often centered on clarity and engagement. They hope the film will guide them into its world without overwhelming them. There is also a general expectation regarding pacing and tone. Giving the film length and scope, audience often anticipate a slower and more deliberate progression rather than a fast-paced, action-driven experience. These expectations can influence how viewers interpret the film's rhythm, making them more receptive to gradual development and atmospheric storytelling. However, audience expectations before watching the film are shaped by a combination of demographic factors, familiarity with the source material, and prior experience with the fantasy genre. Viewers are seeking spectacle, emotional depth, or technical excellence. The film carries a set of expectations that reflect its reputation as both a major cinematic achievement and a defining work with its genre. The film is designed for a broad yet clearly defined audience with its appeal shaped by age group interest and genre preferences. Rather than targeting a narrow segment, the film positions itself as a multi-layer experience that different type of viewers can engage with in distant way. From an age group perspective, the films primarily target teenagers and adults. Its tone, pacing, and thematic depth require a certain level of attention and patience, which may be more suitable for viewers age roughly 13 and above. Younger audience can still enjoy the visual spectacle and imaginative element, but the film's slower pacing and serious tone may not fully align with the expectations of children seeking fast, light entertainment. Teenagers, in particularly, from a core part of the target audience because they are often drawn to immersive world and the character-driven experience, while also being capable of appreciating emotional and thematic complexity. Adult viewers, on the other hand, are likely to connect more deeply with the film's layer, tone, and its emphasis on atmosphere and craftsmanship. In terms of interest, the film strongly appealed to viewers who enjoy detailed world building and artistic storytelling. It is especially suited for those who appreciate films that prioritize atmosphere, visual design, and immersive environment over quick pacing or constant action. Audience interested in literature, mythology, and historical style setting are particularly well aligned with the film style, as it reflected deep influence from the work of J.R.R. Tolkien. This literary foundation gives the film a sense of depth that resonates with viewers who value narrative richness and cultural detail. The film also targets viewers who have an appreciation for cinematic craftsmanship. Under the direction of the Peter Jackson, the production emphasized practical effect, detailed set design, and carefully composed visual. This makes it especially appealing to audience who are interested in filmmaking technique, production design, and technical side of cinema. For such viewers, the film often more than entertainment. It becomes an example of how large-scale filmmaking can be executed with precision and artistic intent. When considering genre preferences, the film is clearly aimed at fans of fantasy and epic adventure, viewers who enjoy expansive fictional world, imaginative setting, and a sense of scale are naturally drawn to this type of film. However, it also extends to reach to those who may not typically watch fantasy but are open to well crafted storytelling. This is because the film avoids excessive stylization or abstraction, instead presenting its element in a grounded and believable manner. As a result, it can appeal to viewers who prefer drama or historical film as long as they are willing to engage with the fictional setting. At the same time, the film is best suited for viewers who prefer fast paced action heavy entertainment with minimal downtime. Its deliberate pacing and emphasis on atmosphere require a willingness to engage with the films on a deeper level. Audience who expect immediate excitement or constant movement may find the experience slower than anticipated. Similarly, viewers who are not interested in fantasy as a genre may approach the film with hesitation, although strong production quality can still offer points of engagement. Another key segment of the target audience include fans of large-scale cinematic experience. These viewers are drawn to the film that offer a sense of grandeur, whether through visual, sound design, or overall scope. The film meets these expectations by delivering a carefully constructed audio-visual experience that reward attention to detail. This makes it particularly appealing for those who enjoy watching film in a focused environment where they can fully absorb the atmosphere. Overall, the target audience for the film can be described as viewers who value immersive storytelling, appreciate detailed craftsmanship, and are open to engaging with a slower, more deliberate narrative style. By appealing to both genre enthusiasts and broader audience with an interest in high quality filmmaking, the film is establishing itself as a versatile, enduring work that continues to attract diverse viewers. The emotional experience promised by the film of the ring is carefully constructed to be immersive, layered, and gradually intensifying. Rather than relying on a constant emotional peaks, the film builds a sustained atmosphere that draws the viewers into a reflective and often deeply felt state. It is an experience that unfolds over time, shaped by mood, thematic weight, and a clear intention to leave a lasting impression. In terms of mood, the film establishes a tone that is both inviting and quietly serious. There is an underlying sense of calm that allows the viewer to settle into the world, but this calm is never entirely without tension. A subtitle feeling of unease run beneath the surface, creating a balance between comfort and anticipation. This duality is essential to the film's emotional design. It ensures that the viewer remains engaged not through sudden shock but through a steady awareness that something significant is always at stake. The mood shifts are controlled and deliberate, moving from warmth to tension and back again without abrupt transition. This creates a rhythm that feels natural and emotionally coherent. The film's emotional depth is further shaped by its theme, many of which are universally resonant. It explores ideas such as responsibility, trust, and the emotional weight of difficult choices. These themes are presenting in a way that encourages introspection rather than overt dramatization. The viewers is not simply told what to feel. Instead, the film creates space for personal interpretation. This approach makes the emotional experience more engaging as it invites the audience to connect with the material on their own terms. Another key thematic element is the contrast between simplicity and complexity. There is a recurring emotional tension between a sense of peace and the intrusion of larger, more serious concern. This contrast adds depth to the viewing experience as it highlights the fragility of comfort and the inevitability of change. The emotional tone remains grounded, avoiding excessive sentimentality while still allowing moment of genuine feeling to emerge. From an intended impact perspective, the film aimed to leave the viewers with a sense of quiet reflection rather than immediate exhilaration. It does not rely heavily on dramatic emotional manipulation. Instead, it built a connection, gradually allowing the viewers to become invested in the atmosphere and tone. By the end of the experience, the emotional effect is cumulative. It lingers, encouraging the viewer to think about the film beyond its runtime. The work of the Peter Jackson plays a significant role in shaping this emotional experience. His direction emphasizes restraint and control, ensuring that emotional moments are earned rather than forced. This approach reinforces the authenticity of the film's tone, making the emotional responses feel natural. Similarly, the influence of the J.R.R. Tolkien is evident in the way the film balances grandeur with intimacy. The emotional experience is not just about scale or intimacy, it is about the subtitle interplay between atmosphere and meaning. The film also uses visual and auditory elements to reinforce its emotional goal. Lighting, color, and sound design contribute to the overall mood, guiding the viewer's feeling without overt direction. Softer tone create a sense of familiarity, while darker or more subdued element introduce tension. The musical score in particularly play a crucial role in shaping emotional responses, often enhancing the mood without overwhelming it. Importantly, the film does not aim to deliver a single uniform emotional experience. Overall, the emotional experiences promised by the film is one of depth and subtlety, designed to draw the viewer into a sustained state of engagement where mood and theme work together to create a lasting impact rather than offering immediate emotional gratifications. It provides a more enduring and reflecting experience that continue to resonate after the viewing is complete. At its core, the film is built around a deeply philosophical and symbolic idea, the tension between a power and responsibility and the quiet strength required to carry burden that can't share equally. Rather than presenting its meaning through direct explanation, the film expresses its core idea through layered theme, emotional undertones, and a carefully structured conceptual framework. One of the central themes is the nature of power, especially how power influences identity and moral judgment. The film suggests that power is not inherently destructive, but it becomes dangerous when it isolates individuals or tempts them to act beyond their moral limit. This idea is closely tied to the concept of restraint. True strength, as implied by the film, is not found in domination or control, but in the ability to resist temptation and remain grounded. This perspective reflects a broader philosophical stances, ones that align with the literary version of J.R.R Tolkien, where moral integrity often emerges through humility rather than force. Another important theme is responsibility, particularly the kind that is imposed rather than chosen. The film explores how individuals respond when they are placed in situations that demand more than they widely believe they can handle. The idea is presenting in a way that emphasizes internal struggle rather than external conflict. Responsibility is not portrayed as heroic in a conventional sense. Instead, it is shown as a quite often isolating experience that requires endurance and self awareness. The film suggests that accepting responsibility is less about confidence and more about perseverance. Closely connected to this is the theme of interdependence. While the idea of individual responsibility is central, the film also highlights the importance of collective story. It presents a world where no single perspective is sufficient on its own. Different viewpoint, background, and strength must come together to create balance. This reinforces the idea that unity is not about sameness but about cooperation despite differences. The film subtly argue that meaningful progress often depends on the ability to trust other even when that trust is difficult to maintain. The message of the film extends into the idea of moral choice. It emphasizes that directions are rarely simple or clear cut. Instead of presenting a binary distinction between right and wrong, the film acknowledges ambiguity. Characters are often placed in situations where every option carries a cost. This complexity adds depth to the film's message, suggesting that ethical behavior is not about perfection but about intention and awareness. The act of choosing becomes more significant than the outcome itself. Another layer of the film's core idea involves the passage of time and the inevitability of change. There is a persistent sense that the world is in transition, moving from one state to another. This idea introduces a subtitle emotional tone of nostalgia and loss. It suggests that even positive change can involve sacrifice, and that holding on to the past too tightly can hinder growth. At the same time, the film does not present change as something to be feared. Instead, it frames it as a necessary process, one that shapes identity and purpose. The story concept itself is built on contrast. It juxtaposes simplicity with complexity, vulnerability with strength, and isolation with connection. These contrasts are not resolved in a straightforward way, rather than coexist, creating a dynamic tension that drive the film thematic depth. The idea that something small or seemingly significant can carry immense weight is particularly important. It challenges traditional notions of importance and influence, suggesting that impact is not determined by scale alone. Under the direction of the Peter Jackson, these abstract ideas are translated in a thematic and cinematic language that emphasize atmosphere and tone. The film does not rely on explicit statement to convert its message. Instead, it uses visual composition, pacing, and emotional notes to communicate its core idea. This approach allows the audience to engage with the films on multiple levels, from surface level enjoyment to deeper philosophical reflection. Ultimately, the core idea of the film revolves around the question of how individuals navigate a world filled with uncertainty, pressure, and moral complexity. It suggests that true significance lies not in achieving dominance or control but in maintaining integrity under challenging circumstances. By focusing on internal struggle, ethical ambiguity, and the value of connection, the film presents a concept of heroism that is defined by endurance, humility, and conscious state. In this way, the film offers more than just a cinematic experience. It presents a framework for thinking about human experience and moral and responsibility. Its theme and message resonate beyond the boundaries of its genre, making it a work that invite ongoing reflection and interpretation. The central conflict with the Lord of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Ring, operate on multiple levels, but at its most meaningful depth, it is not simply about external opposition. It is about internal struggle, moral uncertainty, and the tension between competing values. Rather than presenting conflict as a straightforward clash between opposing sides, the film frame it as an ongoing negotiation between responsibility, desire, and limitation. At the heart of this conflict lies a profound moral dilemma, the question of how to handle power that in its influence is both necessary and dangerous. The film suggests that power carries an inherent duality. It offers the potential to achieve meaningful goal, yet simultaneously introduce the risk of corruption. This creates a consistent tension for individuals who must decide not only what they are capable of doing but what they should do. The conflict is not resolved through simple choice, instead, it is sustained by the awareness that every decision carries consequences that may extend beyond immediate understanding. The dilemma is closely connected to the idea of temptation. The film portrays temptation not as a momentary weakness but as a continuous presence that challenges personal integrity. It raises questions about self-control and the limit of moral strength. Can individuals remain true to their values when faced with the possibility of greater influence or control, or does the mirror existence of such power inevitability alter their perspective? This question forms a central layer of the conflict, emphasizing that the struggle is as much internal as it is external. Another dimension of the conflict involves the burden of responsibility. The film explores what happens when individuals are placed in positions that demand more from them when they feel prepared to give. This responsibility is not framed as a source of empowerment alone. It is also depicted and as isolating and heavy. The tension rises from the gap between expectation and capability. Individuals must confront their own limitation while still moving forward, creating a sense of pressure that defines much of the film's emotional intensity. The concept of trust introduces an additional layer of complexity. The conflict is not limited to the individual, it extends into relationship and collective efforts. Trust becomes both has a necessity and a risk. Relying on others require vulnerability, yet withholding trust can lead to fragmentation and inefficiency. This creates a delicate balance where cooperation is essential but never entirely secure. The tension here lies in the uncertainty of human behavior, whether individuals will act in alignment with shared goals or be influenced by personal motivation. There is also a broader philosophical challenge embedded with the conflict, the struggle between idealism and realism. The film presents a world where ideals such as unity, courage, and integrity are constantly tested by practical limitation. This creates a tension between what should be and what is possible. Character must navigate this divide, often facing situations where ideal outcomes are unattainable. The conflict, therefore, is not about achieving perfection but about making choices within perfect conditions. The influence of J.R.R Tolkien is evident in the way this conflict is structured. Rather than focusing solely on action or confrontation, the narrative emphasizes ethical complexity, emotional depth. The conflict is sustained through reflection and consequence, encouraging the audience to consider not just the outcome of decision but the reasoning behind them. This approach transforms the conflict into something more interceptive, where the stakes are defined as much by internal consistency as by external success. Under the direction of Peter Jackson, these abstract tensions are translated in cinematic experience that prioritize atmosphere and emotional resonance. The film uses pacing, visual tone, and subtitle character interaction to reinforce the sense of ongoing struggle. The conflict is not presenting as a series of isolating challenges but as a continuous state of pressure that evolve over time. This creates a feeling of sustained engagement where the audience is constantly aware of the weight carried by each decision. Another important aspect of the central conflict is the idea of endurance. The film suggests that conflict is not always resolved through decisive action. Sometimes it requires persistence and resilience. This introduces a different kind of tension, one that is less about immediate resolution and more about the ability to continue despite uncertainty. Endurance becomes a form of strength, highlighting the importance of consistency and determination in the face of ongoing challenges. Ultimately, the central conflict of the film is defined by its complexity. It is not confined to a single issue or opposition, but instead emerges from the interaction of multiple forces: power and restraint, trust and doubt, responsibility and limitation, idealism and reality. These elements combine to create a layer and evolving tension that shape the film's identity. In this way, the film presents conflict not as a problem to be solved quickly but as a condition to be navigating thoughtfully. It invites the audience to engage with questions that do not have easy answers, emphasizing that the most significant struggles are often those that occur within the mind and consequence. The film explores a wide range of themes that operate on ethical, emotional, and cultural level. These themes are not presenting in isolation, instead they overlap and interact, creating a layered experience that invite reflection rather than offering simple conclusion. The film's thematic depth is one of its defining qualities, shaped strongly by the literary vision of J.R.R Tolkien and translated into cinematic form through the direction of Peter Jackson. One of the most prominent area of exploration is ethical questioning, particularly around the nature of right and wrong in complex situations. The film avoids presenting morality as a fixed or easily defined concept. Instead, it raises questions about intention, consequence, and the limit of personal judgment. Characters are often faced with choices that do not have clearly positive outcome, forcing them to weigh competing values. This creates a moral landscape where decisions are shaped by context rather than absolute rule. The film suggests that ethical behavior is not about achieving perfection but about striving to act responsibility in uncertain circumstances. Another key ethical theme is the corrupting influence of power. The film examines how the desire for control can alter perception and behavior even in individuals who being with good intention. The theme is closely tied to the idea of self-awareness. It raises the question of whether individuals can truly recognize their own limitation when confronting with power. The tension here lies in the gap between how people see themselves and how they might change under pressure. This theme does not offer a definitive answer, but instead encouraging ongoing reflection about human nature. Moving into emotional arc, the film emphasizes internal growth and transformation rather than dramatic external change. Emotional development is portrayed gradually and often subtitled. Character experience shift in perspective, learning to navigate fear, doubt, and uncertainty. These emotional arcs are not about sudden breakthroughs, they are about adaptation and resilience. The film places significant importance on endurance, suggesting that emotional strength is built through persistence rather than immediate success. A particularly important emotional theme is loyalty and trust. Relationships are tested not through overt conflict alone but through moments of uncertainty and pressure. Trust becomes a dynamic element, something that must be maintained and reaffirmed rather than assumed. The emotional weight of these relationships adds depth to the emotional and overall experience, highlighting the importance of connection in overcoming challenges. Loyalty is not appreciated as blind or automatic, it is shown as a conscious choice that requires commitment. The film also explored the theme of fear and courage in a nuanced way. Fear is not treated as a weakness to be eliminated but as a natural response that must be understood and managed. Courage in this context is not the absence of fear but the ability to act despite it. This interpretation adds complexity to the emotional landscape at it, acknowledging vulnerability while still valuing strength. The film suggests that courage is often quiet and internal rather than loud or performative. On a broader level, the film engages with culture topic, particularly the idea of coexistence among diverse groups. It presents a world composed of different traditions, values, and perspectives, each with its own identity. The theme here is not simply unity but the challenge of achieving cooperation without erasing difference. This reflects a broader commentary on culture interaction, where understanding and respect are necessary for collective progress. The film's subtitly addresses issues of prejudice, misunderstanding, and the difficulty of bridging divides, making its culture theme relevant beyond its fictional setting. Another culture dimension is the emphasis on heritage and legacy. The film conveys a sense of history that influenced the present, suggesting that current actions are shaped by past decisions. This creates a thematic link between memory and responsibility. Individuals are not isolated from their cultural background, they are the part of a larger continuum. This idea adapts to the narrative as it frames personal choices within a broader historical and cultural context. The theme of sacrifice also plays a significant role. It is presenting not as a grand or dramatic gesture but as a necessary part of meaningful action. Sacrifice involves giving up comfort, certainty, or personal gain for a larger purpose. The film treats this theme with restraint, avoiding exaggeration while still acknowledging its emotional impact. This approach reinforces the idea that important contributions are often quiet and unrecognized. Finally, the film explores the concept of hope as a sustaining force. Hope is not depicted as optimism without reason, but as a deliberate choice to continue despite difficulty. It exists alongside doubt and uncertainty, creating a balanced emotional tone. This theme ties together many of the film's other ideas, suggesting that perseverance is rooted in the ability to maintain belief in the possibility of positive outcome. Overall, the theme explored in the films are interconnected and multifaceted. They address ethical complexity, emotional growth, and cultural interaction in a way that feel both timeless and relevant. By avoiding simplistic answer and embracing no's, the film creates a thematic framework that encourages ongoing reflection and interpretation. The film creates emotional connection with viewer through carefully balanced combination of mood, thematic depth, and immersive viewing experience. Rather than relying on sudden emotional intensity, the film built a steady, evolving connection that draw the audience inward over time. This approach allows the emotional impact to feel natural, personal, and long lasting. At the level of the mood, the film establishes a tone that is both reflective and quietly powerful. There is a sense of calm woven into the atmosphere, but it is never entirely free from tension. This subtitle contrast play a key role in shaping how we were engaged emotionally. The calm moment invite comfort and familiarity, allow the audience to settle into the environment, while the underlying tension create a sense of anticipation. This duality ensure that viewers remain emotionally alert without feeling overwhelmed. The mood is not static, it shifts gradually, guiding the audience through a range of feelings while maintaining overall coherence. The emotional connection is further strengthened by the film's theme, many of which resonate on a deeply human level. Ideas such as responsibility, trust, courage, and the struggle to maintain integrity under pressure are presenting in a way that feel relatable despite the film's fantastical setting. These themes are not imposed on the viewer, they emerge naturally through the film's tone and structure. This allowing individual to interpret them based on their own experience, making the connection more personal. The influence of J.R.R Tolkien is evident in this approach as the thematic content reflects a broader understanding of human behavior and moral complexity. Another important factor is the film emphasis on emotional restraint. Under the direction of Peter Jackson, the film avoids excessive dramatization. Emotional moments are not exaggerated or forced. Instead, they are allowed to develop gradually. This restraint creates a sense of authenticity as the viewer is not being directed too strongly and on how to feel. Instead, they are given space to form their own emotional responses. This approach can be more impactful than overt emotional cues that encourages a deeper level of engagement. The viewer experience itself play a central role in establishing this connection. The film's pacing, visual style, sound design work together to create an environment that feel immersive and cohesive. Viewers are not simply observing the film; they are drawn into its atmosphere. This immersion allows emotional response to develop organically as the audience becomes more invested in the tone and the setting. The experience is less about reacting to individual moment and more about observing the overall emotional landscape. Music and sound contribute significantly to this process. The score enhances the mood without dominating it, reinforcing emotional cue in a subtitle way. It helps guide the viewer feeling while still allowing room for personal interpretation. Similarly, the visual composition through lightning, color, and flaming support the emotional tone. Warmer tones often create a sense of comfort, while cooler or darker elements introduce tension. The stylistic choices work together to shape the viewer's emotional journey in a way that feels cohesive rather than fragmented. Another key aspect of the emotional connection is the film focus on universality. While the setting and the context may be fictional, the emotion it evokes are similar and familiar. Feeling of uncertainty, responsibility, and the need for trust are experience that most viewers can relate to in some form. By grounding its emotional content in these universal ideas, the film bridges the gap between its imaginative world and the audience reality. This makes the audience more accessible and meaningful. The film also encouraging a sense of reflection instead of providing immediate emotional resolution. It allows feeling to linger. This creates a lasting impact as viewers continue to think about the theme and the mood even after the film has ended. The emotional connection is not confined to the viewing experience. It extend beyond it, becoming part of the viewer's ongoing interpretation. Importantly, the film does not aim to deliver a single uniform emotional response. Different viewers may connect with different aspects of the film depending on their perspective and personal experience. This flexibility is one of its strength as it allows for a wide range of interpretations. Some may focus on the sense of atmosphere, while others may be drawn to the thematic depth or the overall tone. In the end, the emotional connection created by the film is defined by its subtlety and depth. It does not rely on immediate impact or overt emotional manipulation. Instead, it built a relationship with the viewers through mood, theme, and immersive design. By allowing emotion to develop gradually and organically, the film created an experience that feels both personal and enduring, leaving a lasting impression that continue to resonate over time. A meaningful discussion of the film naturally lead to its character who are interested less as conventional heroes and more as layered representation of archetypes shaped by personality and more perspective. In a reviewer lens, the film's strength lies in how it balances familiar character type with subtitle individuality, allowing each figure to feel both symbolic and human. Starting with the very important character Frodon Baggins stand as a quite an interceptive protagonist rather than embodying the typical heroic figure defined by physical strength or charisma. He represents vulnerability and internal silence. His personality is marked by sensitivity, caution, and a reflective nature. This makes him less immediately commanding but more emotionally accessible. As a central figure, he carries an inherent stillness that contrasts with the larger scale of the world around him. From a reviewer perspective, this choice is deliberate. It shifts the focus from outward heroism to inward endurance, making the character feel grounded and relatable. In contrast, Samwise Gamgee represents the archetype of unwavering loyalty. His personality is defined by sincerity, simplicity, and emotional transparency. While other characters may struggle with doubt or internal conflict, Sam embodies consistency. This does not make him simplistic, rather, it gives him a stabilizing presence within the group dynamic. His role highlight the importance of sport over dominance, suggesting that strength can coexist in forms that are not immediately visible. As a reviewer, one might note that his character functions as an emotional anchor, reinforcing the film's broader theme of trust and companionship. Gandalf fits the classic mentor archetype, yet he is portrayed with a level of restraint that avoid clinch. His personality combines wisdom with subtitle authority, but it is his calm presence that defines him most strongly. He does not dominate scenes through force, instead, he guides through mere influence. This approach makes him feel less like an all-knowing figure and more like a thoughtful observer who understands the limits of control. His character reflects the idea that knowledge and experience come with responsibility, not certainty. Moving to Argon, we encounter a reinterpretation of the reluctant leader archetype. His personality is shaped by restraint, self discipline, and a quiet sense of responsibility. Unlike traditional heroic figure who embrace leadership openly, Argon is defined by hesitation and introspection. This creates a more complex portrait where strength is balanced by doubt. From a critical standpoint, this adds depth to the character, making him feel more human and less idealized. Legolas and Gimli function as complementary archetypes representing contrast and cultural identity. Legolas embodies pristine composure and a refined sense of awareness, while Gimli represents grounded strength, directness, and emotional expressiveness. Their personalities highlight difference in perspective and temperament, contributed to the film exploration of diversity. As a reviewer, one might observe that these characters are less about individual arc and more about how contrasting traits can coexist within our shared purpose. Finally, Boromir introduces a more conflicted personality type. He represents the tension between a noble intention and internal struggle. His traits include pride, determination, and vulnerability to pressure. Unlike other characters who maintain a clear sense of direction, Boromir reflects the complexity of human motivation. His presence adds a layer of unpredictability, emphasizing that even well-intended individual can face moral ambiguity. This makes him one of the more psychologically nuanced figure in the film. Overall, the character design in the film heavily relies on archetype, but it avoids rigidity by infusing each role with distinct personality trait. The film does not attempt to invent character type entirely. Instead, it refines them, adding subtitle variation that enhance realism. This approach aligns with the narrative inspired by J.R.R. Tolkien and brought to screen by Peter Jackson, where characters serve both symbolic and emotional function. From a reviewer's standpoint, the success of these characters lies in their balance. They are recognizable enough to be immediately understood yet knows enough to remain engaging. Their personalities are not defined by action alone, but by tone, presence, and interaction. This creates a cast that feels cohesive while still allowing for individual distinction, ultimately strengthening the film's emotional and thematic impact. The impact in The Lord of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Ring, is one of its most quietly powerful elements, built not only on exaggerated expression but on emotional sincerity and restraint. The performance feels deeply connected to the tone of the film, creating an atmosphere where the characters are not simply portrayed, they are genuinely inhabited. This emotional authenticity allows the audience to connect without feeling manipulating, which is a rare achievement in a large scale production. Focusing on the elegant wound, deliver a performance that is subtitle, introspective, and emotionally transparent. His portrait is not driven by overt intensity but by a quiet vulnerability that genuinely gradually deepens. There is a softness in his expression that reflects uncertainty and inner tension without needing explicit dialogue. This approach makes the character feel approachable and humor rather than commanding attention through force, would draw the audience in through stillness, emotional openness. There is a performance that relies heavily on nose, making it a more impactful over time. Equally important is Ian McKellen, whose presence adds a sense of gravity and calm authority. His performance is measured and deliberate, carrying an emotional weight that feels earned rather than imposed. McKellen brings a balance of warmth and seriousness, allowing moment of quiet reflection to feel as significant as moment of intensity. His wise posture and controlled delivery contribute to a sense of wisdom that never feel distant or inaccessible. Instead, it feels grounded and reassuring, which enhance the emotional tone of the film. Looking at the supporting cast, the film benefit from a group of actors who approach their role with consistency, emotional awareness. Viggo Mortensen deliver a restrained and thoughtful performance marked by subtitle shift in expression rather than over dramatics. His ability to convey internal conflict through minimal gesture add depth without disrupting the film's overall tone. Similarly, seen Aston bring a sincerity that feels genuine and forced. His emotional clarity stand out, offering moments that feel grounded and relatable. Orlando Bloom and John Rhys Davies contribute through contrast. Bloom's performance is composed and controlled with a sense of elegance that aligns with the film's aesthetic, while Rhys Davies introduces a more direct and expressive energy. This contrasting enriches the group dynamic, adding variation without breaking cohesion. Meanwhile, Scene Bean delivered one of the more emotionally layered performances, bringing a sense of internal tension that feels both believable and complex. His portrayal adds depth to the ensemble, showing how emotional conflict can exist beneath a composed exterior. The chemistry between the cast is where the film truly excels. There is a natural sense of connection that extends beyond individual performances. The actors interact in a way that feels organic, as though they are sharing live experience rather than simply performing scripted role. This chemistry is not overly emphasized. It emerges through small gestures, sheer expression, and subtitle timing. These details create a sense of unity that strengthen the emotional impact of the film. What stands out most is how the cast collectively support the film's tone. Under the direction of the Peter Jackson, the performances avoid excess. There is a clear emphasis on restraint, allowing emotion to surface gradually rather than being forced into the foreground. This approach ensures that the acting aligns with the film's overall atmosphere, maintaining consistency across different characters and moments. Another notable aspect is how the actors adapt to the filmscape. Despite the grand setting and visual scope, the performances remain intimate. This balance between scale and subtitle is crucial. It prevents the film from becoming emotionally distant, ensuring that the audience remains connected even as the environment expands. The actors anchor the experience, providing a human element that grounds the larger cinematic vision. Overall, the acting in the film is defined by its emotional intensity and cohesion. The lead performances establishes a strong foundation. The supporting cast add depth and variation, and the chemistry between them create a sense of authenticity that resonates throughout. It is a collective achievement that enhances the film's emotional depth without drawing unnecessary attention to itself, allowing the performance to feel both natural and enduring. In a film like the Lord of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Ring. Realism is not about literal accuracy to the real world but about emotional truth and psychological consistency. Despite its fantastical setting, the film achieves a strong sense of realism through character depth, grounded performances, and carefully constructed development. The result is a world that may be imaginary yet feel believable because the people within it respond in a way that reflects genuine human experience. Focusing first on character development, the film takes a measured and deliberate approach. Characters are not defined by modern transformation or exaggerated shift in personality. Instead, their development unfolds gradually, shaped by internal reflection and subtitle change in perspective. This slow progression mirrors real life emotional growth, where change often occurs incrementally rather than dramatically. The influence of J.R.R. Tolkien is evident here as the characters are written within a sense of continuity and depth that extend beyond immediate circumstances. Under the direction of the Peter Jackson, this development is translated into visual and emotional language that prioritizes knows. The film allows space for character to exist without constant explanation. Small gestures, pauses, and expression become key tools for conveying growth. This restraint contribute to a sense of realism as it avoids the need for overstatement or dramatic emphasis. Viewers are invited to observe and interrupt rather than being directly told how to understand each character. When considering believability, one of the film's strengths lies in its consistency. Each character behaves in a film that align with their established personality traits, even when placed under pressure. This consistency builds trust with the audience. It ensures that action and reaction feel earned rather than convenient. The film avoids simplifying its character into purely heroic or flawed figure. Instead, it presents them as individuals with a mix of strength and vulnerability, which enhance their credibility. Another important aspect of believability is the way the film handles emotional responses. Characters do not react in exaggerated or unrealistic way. Their emotions are expressed with restraint, often through subtitle changing tone or body language. This approach makes their experience feel more authentic as it reflects how people often process emotions internally rather than outwardly. The performance contributes significantly to this fact, reinforcing the idea that realism is achieved through sincerity rather than intensity. The film also demonstrates a wide emotional range, but it does so in a controlled manner instead of presenting extreme highs and lows. It explores a spectrum of feeling that evolve over time. These are the moments of quiet reflection, underlying tension, and mere resolve, all of which contribute to a layered emotional landscape. This range allows people to connect with different aspects of the character depending on their perspective and experience. Importantly, the film does not isolate emotional range to individual character. It distributes different emotional tones across the ensemble, creating a balanced dynamic. Some characters embody calm and stability, while others reflect uncertainty or internal conflict. This variation adds depth to the overall experience as it prevents the emotional tone from becoming uniform. It also reinforces the idea that individuals respond differently to similar situations, which is a key element of realism. The interaction between the characters further enhance both realism and depth. Relationships are not defined slowly by dialogue or explicit statement. Instead, they are shaped through shared presence and subtitle exchange. This creates a sense of authenticity as the connection feel organic rather than constructed. The audience is able to perceive these relationships as evolving and multidimensional rather than fixed or simplistic. Another factor contributed to realism is the film of wideness of idealization. While the character may possess admirable qualities, they are not presenting as flawless. Their limitations and uncertainties are acknowledged, adding complexity to their portrayal. This prevents the film from becoming emotionally distant, as viewers can recognize aspects of themselves within the character. Overall, the realism and depth in the Fellowship of the Ring emerges from a combination of careful character development, consistent behavior, and knows emotional range. By focusing on subtlety and authenticity, the film creates a sense of credibility that transcends its fantastical setting. It demonstrates that realism in storytelling is not dependent on setting but on the truthfulness of human emotion and behavior, making the character feel believable and deeply engaging. The production budget of The Lord of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring, is best understood with the context of long term planning and share investment. Rather than being financed as a standalone project, the film was produced alongside its sequel as a part of unified production strategy. This approach shaped both the cost structure and the way resources were distributed, making the reported figure more complex than they might initially appear. In terms of cost ranges, the film itself is commonly associated with an estimated budget of around 90 to $100 million. However, this figure represents only a portion of the overall financial commitment. The entire trilogy was produced with a combined budget in the range of approximately 270 to $300 million. By consolidating production, the filmmaker was able to allocate cost across three installments. This reduced duplication in areas such as set construction, costume design, and location preparation. From an analytical standpoint, this method reflects a high risk but potentially efficient investment model, as it requires significant upfront commitment without the guarantee of individual film success. When examining resource allocation, a substantial portion of the budget was directed toward world building and production design. Under the direction of Peter Jackson, the film prioritized physical detail and environmental authenticity. Resources were invested in constructed elaborate sets, developing cultural distinct costume and creating props that align with the literary foundation established by J.R.R Tolkien. This emphasis on tangible element reduced reliance on purely digital solutions and contributed to a more grounded visual presentation. Location shooting also presenting a wide allocation of funds. Filming in New Zealand require extensive logistical production, including transportation, accommodation, infrastructure, support for cast and the crews. While this increased operational cost, it allowed the production to realize real landscape, which enhanced visual credibility and reduced the need for artificial environment. This trade off between logistical expense and visual authenticity is a notable aspect of the film budgeting strategy. Visual effect form another important category of spending through the approach taken was measured rather than excessive. The production combined digital effect with practical techniques such as miniature and force perspective. This hybrid method helped control cost while maintaining a high level of visual detail. It also contributed to the film's longevity, as practical effects tend to age more consistently than early generation digital imagery. Cost related expenses were comparatively moderate at the time of the production. Many of the actors were not yet commanding the high salaries typically associated with major blockbuster films. This allowed the budget to prioritize technical department including cinematography, sound design, and post production. This decision reflects a focus on overall production quality rather than reliance on a star power as the primary draw. In comparison to the other film, the budget of the Fellowship of the Ring appeared relatively efficient. For instance, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone was produced with a higher individual budget, yet both films aimed to establish expensive fantasy world. The difference lies in the allocation strategy, where the Fellowship of the Raven Ring leverage share resources across multiple films to achieve scale without proportionally increasing cost. Looking at later productions such as The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, which looking had a significantly larger budget, the contrast becomes more apparent. Despite higher spending, later films often rely more heavily on digital effects, which can increase cost without increasingly enhancing realism. This comparison highlights how strategic planning and balanced resource distribution can be as important as the total budget itself. Overall, the production budget reflected a deliberate and calculated approach by combining financial resources across a trilogy, prioritizing practical craftsmanship and maintaining disciplined allocation. The filmmaker creating a model that balanced efficiency with ambition. This approach not only supported the film's immediate goal but also contributed to its long-term success and influence within the industry. The domestic box office performance of The Lord of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring, provide a clear example of how a large-scale fantasy film can achieve strong commercial success within a competitive market. In this context, domestic primarily related to the United States and the Canada, which together form one of the most influential theatrical market. The film earned approximately $315 million in this region, a figure that reflects both immediate audience interest and sustained engagement over time. From a regional perspective, this level of revenue places the film among the top performers of its release year. The North American market is known for its diverse audience base and strong competition, particularly during the holiday season when major films are typically released. The film performance indicates that it was able to attract not only core genre fans but also a broader audience. This suggests that its appeal extended beyond niche fantasy viewer into more general movie going demographic. examining audience trend, one of the most notable aspects of the film domestic success is its longevity in theatre. Rather than relying solely on a strong opening weekend, the film demonstrated consistent performance over several years. This pattern is often associated with positive word of mouth and repeat viewing. Audience did not simply watch the film once, many returned for additional screening, contributed to its cumulative earning. This kind of sustained interest is particularly important for films with longer runtime and more deliberate pacing, as it indicates that viewers found the experience engaging enough to recommend to others. Another important trend is the film's ability to bridge different audience segments. Fantasy as a genre can sometimes be perceived as limited in appeal, but this film managed to attract a wide range of viewers. Younger audiences were drawn to its scale and visual presentation, while older viewers responded to its tone and craftsmanship. Fans of the original literary work by J.R.R Tolkien also play a significant role, bringing an existing audience base that contributed to early momentum. At the same time, the direction of the Peter Jackson helped position the film as a serious cinematic work, appealing to viewers who might not engage with fantasy. Seasonal timing also influenced domestic performance. The film was released during the December holiday period, a time when audiences are more likely to attend theaters and engage with longer event style film. This timing allowed the film to benefit from extended availability and increase attendance, particularly as families and groups sought sheer entertainment experience. When making comparison to similar film, the domestic earning of the Fellowship of the Ring stand out as both strong and strategically significant. For example, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, released in the same year, achieved slightly higher domestic earning. However, both films contributed to a broader trend in which fantasy adaptation became major box office drivers. The comparison highlight how the genre was gaining mainstream acceptance during this period. Looking at later entries such as The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, domestic earnings were also substantial, but the context differed. By that time, the fantasy genre was already well established in the market. The audience expectation has shifted. The earlier success of the Fellowship of the Ring play a role in shaping these expectations, effectively setting a benchmark for future film. Another point of comparison can be made with other large-scale production of the early 2000s, where domestic box office performance often depended heavily on opening weekend result. In contrast, the film demonstrated that a strong initial reception combined with a sustained audience interest could produce equally, if not more impressive result over time. This pattern has since become a more model for film that rely on long-term engagement rather than immediate impact. Overall, the domestic box office performance of the film reflect a combination of strategic release timing, broad audience appeal, and consistent viewer engagement. Its earning within the North America market illustrate how film can move beyond general limitation to achieve widespread success, while also influencing industry reputation for similar production in the years that followed. The international box office performance of the Ring Lord of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring demonstrate how a large-scale production can successfully extend its reach beyond its domestic base and establish a truly global presence. Outside the United States and the Canada, the film earned approximately $580 million, bringing its worldwide total to over $890 million. This substantial international share highlight the importance of overseas market in determining the overall success of major film release. From a regional perspective, the film performed strongly across multiple territories, particularly in Europe, Oceania, and the parts of Asia. European markets show especially high engagement, likely influenced by the cultural familiarity with the literary work of J.R.R. Tolkien. In countries such as the United Kingdom, Germany, and France contributed significantly to the film's international revenue. In these regions, the film benefited from existing readership that helped generate early interest and sustain attendance. In Oceania, particularly New Zealand, the film performance carries additional significance. As a primary filming location, New Zealand became closely associated with the film's identity. This connection enhanced local interest and contributed to a strong regional response. The use of real landscape not only influenced production but also play a role in how the film was received internationally as audience recognized the authenticity of its visual presentation. Asian market presented a more varied response while the film achieved solid earning in countries such as Japan, where audiences are generally receptive to large-scale cinematic experience. Its performance in other parts of Asia was more moderate. This variation reflects differences in genre preferences and familiarity with the source material. Despite these differences, the film maintained a consistent presence across international market, demonstrated its ability to cross cultural boundary. In terms of market reception, the film was widely regarded as a high quality production which contributed to positive word of mouth in many regions. International audience responded not only to the film's visual scale but also to its tone and craftsmanship. The direction of the Peter Jackson played a key role in shaping this reception as the film was positioned as a serious and carefully constructed work rather than purely commercial spectacle. This perception helped it appeal to a broader audience, including viewers who might not typically engage with fantasy film. The film pacing and atmospheric style also influence its reception in market where audiences are accustomed to slower, more deliberate storytelling. The film was particularly well received. In contrast, regions that favor faster paced entertainment show a more measured response. However, the overall consistency of its performance suggests that its strengths were widely recognized even when the genre preferences differ. The marketing impact was another critical factor in the film's international success. The promotional strategy emphasized the scale of the production, the authenticity of its design, its connection to a well-known literary source. Trailers and advertising material highlight the film's visual quality and epic tone, creating a sense of anticipation across different markets. The simultaneously production of the trilogy also contributed to the reception of continuity and long-term investment, encouraging audience to view the film as part of a larger cinematic events localization effort. Further supported the marketing strategy. The film was adopted for different regions through dubbing and subtitling, ensuring accessibility for a wide audience. At the same time, the core element of the marketing campaign remained consistent, reinforced seeing a unified global identity. This balance between localization and consistency helped maintain the film's appeal across diverse cultural contexts. When compared to the similar film, the international earnings of the films are particularly notable for their scale and distribution. For example, Harry Potter and Sorcerer Stone also achieved strong international performance, reflecting a broader trend in which fantasy adaptation gained global traction during the early 2000s. However, the film distinguished itself through its emphasis on realism and production quality, which contributed to sustain emotional appeal. Overall, the film's international box office performance reflects a combination of strong regional engagement, positive market reception, and effective marketing. By appealing to diverse audience while maintaining consistent identity, established itself as a globally successful film and reinforced the importance of international market in the modern film industry. The financial performance of The Lord of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring, can be best understood by examining its worldwide gross alongside the concept of the break-even analysis. These two elements together provide a clear picture of how the film transitioned from a high-cost production into a commercially successful global ascent. In terms of worldwide gross, the film generated approximately $890 million globally, combining both domestic and international earnings. This figure reflects strong engagement across multiple regions and highlights the film's ability to reach a broad global audience. Unlike films that rely heavily on one primary market. This production demonstrated balanced performance with a significant portion of its revenue coming from international territory. This distribution of funding reduces reliance on a single region and indicate a wider cultural acceptance. The global audience for the film was notably diverse. It included not only dedicated fans of the fantasy genre but also general viewers attracted by the film production quality and cinematic scale. The influence of J.R.R Tolkien in work contributed to an existing international fan base, particularly in Europe, while the direction of the Peter Jackson helped position the film as a high-quality production with broad appeal. This combination allowed the film to perform consistently across different markets, supporting its overall growth. When analyzing break-even, it is important to look beyond the reported production budget. While the film individual budget is often cited at around 90 to 100 million dollars, this does not include additional expenses such as marketing, distribution, and promotional campaign. Industry estimates suggest that the marketing cost for the film of this scale could range between 50 to 100 million dollars. When compared with production expenses, the total investment for the film may have approached 150 to 100 million dollars. Break even is typically calculated by determining how much revenue is required to recover both production and associated costs. In this, the film industry studios do not receive the full box office revenue, as a portion is retained by theater. As a general guideline, a film often need to earn roughly 2 to 2.5 times its total cost to break even. Based on this model, the Fellowship of the Ring would likely have needed to generate approximately 300 to 400 million dollars worldwide to cover its expenses, giving its actual gross of around 890 million dollars. The film significantly exceeded this threshold. This indicates not only that it reached break-even but that it generated substantial profit. The margin between the break-even point and the total cost reflects strong financial performance and effective cost management. Beyond theoretical earning, additional revenue streams further enhance the film profitability. These include home video sales, television licensing, and merchandise. While these figures are separate from box office total, they play a critical role in the overall financial outcome for a film with a strong global presence. This secondary stream can contribute significantly long-term revenue. The film detail, work building, and recognizable visual identity made it particularly well suited for merchandise and extended distribution channel. Distribution costs also factor in the overall financial analysis. Releasing a film internationally involves expenses related to localization, marketing adjustment, and logistical contribution across multiple regions. These costs can vary depending on the scale of these release and the number of the market involved. In this case, the film-wide distribution requires substantial investment, but it also enables access to a larger audience base. The success of the international rollout suggests that these costs were effectively managed and justified by the resulting revenue. When compared to the other similar films such as the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, who also achieve high worldwide earning, the Fellowship of the River stand out for its efficient conversion of production investment into global revenue. Its ability to generate a high return related to its cost demonstrate a well-balanced financial strategy. Overall, the worldwide growth and break-even analysis of the film illustrate how film can leverage global audience reach, diversified revenue stream, and control distribution costs to achieve strong financial success. A profitability analysis of the film, film shows a clear case of a high budget production translated into strong financial success. When evaluating profitability, is essential to compare total revenue against overall cost while also considering additional income stream that extend beyond theoretical release. Starting with revenue versus cost, the film generated approximately 890 million dollars worldwide at the box office. On the cost side, the production budget is typically estimated around 80 to 100 million dollars. Though this figure represents only a portion of the total financial commitment, where marketing and distribution expenses are included, the total cost likely rise to somewhere between 150 million to 200 million dollars. In industry terms, studios generally cover only a portion of box office earning due to theater revenue split, meaning the film would need to earn roughly 2 to 2.5 times its total cost to break even. Even with this consideration, the film comfortably exceeded its break-even threshold. A conservative estimate suggests that it needed around 300 to 400 million dollars globally to cover all expenses. With actual earning fare above that range, the film achieved a substantial surplus. This margin indicates that the film was not just profitable but highly profitable within the context of the early 2000 blockbuster filmmaking. Beyond theoretical income, ancillary income play a major role in increasing overall profitability. The film performed strongly in home entertainment markets, including DVD and VHS sales, which was particularly significant revenue channel at the time. Licensing agreement for television broadcasting international syndication further contributed to long-term income. Additionally, the film's strong visual identity and detailed world building made it well suited for merchandising, including collectibles, games, and branded products. These revenue streams are often less visible than box office figures but can significantly enhance a film's financial performance over time. Another important factor is the film's position within a large trilogy. Because the three films were produced together, certain costs were shared across all installments. This meant that the investment in set, costume, and infrastructure could be reused, effectively lowering the per film cost when viewed across the entire project. As a result, the profitability of one film can't be entirely separated from the financial strategy of the trilogy as a whole. The success of the first installment also contributed to increased audience interest in subsequent release, interacting supporting the overall return on investment. In terms of return on investment ROI, the film demonstrates a strong performance. ROI can be best understood as a ratio between net profit and the total investment, while stress figure depend on internal studio accounting. The gap between estimated cost and total revenue suggests a high return for a film with a total cost potentially under $200 million to generate nearly $900 million in box office revenue alone indicate a significant multiplier effect. When one ancillary income is included, the overall return becomes even more substantial. The involvement of Peter Jackson as director also play a role in maintaining the cost efficiency. His emphasis on practical effect and real world location help control certain expenses while enhancing the film's visual credibility. At the same time, the influence of J.R.R Tolkien in established literary work provided a built-in audience, reducing the risk typically associated with the original high-budget production. The comparison to the other films such as Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone, which also achieved strong financial results, the Fellowship of the Ring stand out for its balanced cost structure and long-term revenue potential. Its profitability was not driven by a single factor, but by a combination of strong global performance control, spending, and a sustained audience interest. Overall, the film can be considered a clear financial success. Its ability to generate revenue well beyond its total cost, supported by multiple income stream and a strategic production model, position it at a highly profitable and influential example of large scale filmmaking. General audience reaction to the film reflect a strong and sustained level of the engagement across multiple viewer group. What stand out most is not just the initial response but the consistency of positive reception over time. The film managed to resonate with a wide range of demographic, creating a shared viewing experience that extended beyond typical genre boundaries. Looking for first at demographic, the audience base was notably diverse. Younger viewers, particularly teenagers and young adults, responded positively to the film's scale and immersive quality. For this group, the appeals often came from the sense of entering a fully realized world combined with a cinematic experience that felt expensive and visually compelling. At the same time, adult audience show a different but equally strong level of appreciation. Older viewers tended to focus more on the film's tone, pacing, and craftsmanship, valuing its measured approach and attention to detail. Another important demographic segment include readers familiar with the work of J.R.R Tolkien. In this group, approach the film with specific expectation and the reaction play a key role in shaping earlier public perception. While adaptation often face scrutiny from established fans, the general feedback in this case leaned toward approval, particularly regarding the film commitment to more atmosphere and thematic consistency. This positive reception helped build credibility and encourage broader audience to engage with the film. In turn of viewers' feedback, one of the most commonly noted aspects was the film's immersive quality. Audience frequently described the experience as absorbing and detailed, emphasizing how the film created a sense of presence rather than distance. This type of feedback suggests that viewers were not simply watching the film, they were engaging with it on a deeper level. The visual design, sound, and pacing control to this fact allow the film to maintain attention over an extended runtime. Another recurring element in viewer response was appreciation for the film's tone. Many viewers noted that it felt serious and sincere without becoming overwhelming. This balance allowed the film to appeal to both casual viewers and those seeking a more thoughtful cinematic experience. The absence of excessive dramatization was often seen as a strength, as it made the emotional aspect feel more authentic. This kind of feedback indicated that audience value restraint and consistency in the film presentation. Engagement level was also reflected in repeat viewing, which became a notable trend rather than being a one-time experience. The film encouraged audience to return, either to revisit its atmosphere or to notice detail that may have missed initially. This pattern of repeated engagement is often associated with films that offer depth layer construction. It also contributed to the film's long-term presence in theater as it continued relevance after its initial release. The role of word of mouth can't be overlooked when discussing audience reaction. Positive feedback spread organically, influencing others to watch the film. This type of engagement is particularly important for films with a longer runtime and slower pacing, as it reassures potential viewers about the quality of the experience. The direction of the Peter Jackson play a significant role here, as the film cohesive style and attention to detail created a strong impression that audience were eager to share. Audience engagement also extended beyond the theater. Discussion, reviews, and a fan commitment contributed to an ongoing conversation about the film. This level of interaction suggests that the films offered more than immediate entertainment. It provided material for reflection and analysis. Viewers were not only reacting to what they saw but also interpreting and discussing it, which indicate a deeper level of attachment involvement. At the same time, not all the reactions are uniformly positive. Some viewers, particularly those lesser familiar with the fantasy genre, found the pacing slower than expected. The feedback highlight the importance of genre preferences in shaping audience response. However, even among those who expressed reservation, there was often acknowledgement of the film's technical quality and ambition. Overall, audience reaction to the film demonstrate a high level of engagement across different demographics. The combination of immersive presentation, consistent tone, and positive viewer feedback created a strong connection with audience. This response was not limited to initial impression but continue over time, reinforcing the film position as a widely appreciated and influential cinematic work. The strong box office performance of the film play a significant role in shaping how the film was perceived both critically and with the industry. Financial success offered reinforced credibility, and in this case the film's high global earning supported the idea that it was not only artistically ambitious but also widely accessible. The Lord of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring stand as a remarkably balanced piece of filmmaking where cinematic quality, production value, performance, and thematic depth work in strong alignment. From a reviewer perspective, its greatest strength lies in its cohesion. Every element from visual design, sound to design, from pacing to tone, feels carefully considered rather than assembled to for effect. In terms of cinematic quality, the film demonstrates a clear and confident vision under Peter Jackson. The pacing is deliberate, sometimes even slow, but this choice supports immersion and allows the atmosphere to fully develop. While this may challenge viewers who prefer faster storytelling, it ultimately enhances the film's long-term impact. The production value is consistently high, with a strong emphasis on practical detail. The Lord of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring is best suited for viewers who appreciate immersive storytelling and a thoughtful cinematic pace. From an audience type perspective, it strongly appeals to those who enjoy films that prioritize atmosphere, emotional depth, and detailed world building over fast moving action. Viewers who like to absorb a film's tone, reflect on its theme, and engage with its overall mood will find this experience rewarding. In terms of genre preferences, the film is ideal for fans of epic fantasy and adventure. Those who are drawn to expansive fictional world, layered themes, and a sense of scale will connect with their style. It also works well for viewers who appreciate adaptation rooted in literal tradition, especially those familiar with the work of J.R.R. Tolkien. Even for audience who are not typically fan of fantasy, the film grounded tone and a strong production quality guided for Peter Jackson can make it accessible, provided they are open to slower, more deliberate narrative style. Regarding age group, the film is generally most appropriate for teenagers, and older viewers are more likely to appreciate its pacing, thematic subtlety, emotional restraint. Younger audience may enjoy the visual element, but the film's length and seriousness might require patience and focus that not all children will find engaging. On the other, the film may not be suitable for viewers who prefer quick, high energy entertainment with constant action. Those who look for immediate excitement or simple storytelling might find the pacing too slow and the tone too mild. Similarly, audience with little interest in fantasy setting or a symbolic theme may struggle to fully connect with the experience. This is a film for viewers who value depth, atmosphere, emotional resonance over speed and simplicity, offering a rewarding experience for those who willing to engage with its style.